when we get to the preliminary budget, we will probably exhaust any of our fancy financing that we're gonna do with our accounts that we have, and not having the chances that we wanna take as to predicting income. I don't want to pick on anybody, but I know capital reserve accounts are a big discussion with a lot of people. I was asked to ask our attorney or audit and control, which Janet called, capital reserve accounts can be abolished and the money can be used somewhere else. Capital reserve accounts cannot be borrowed from. In other words, they've been put together through the years for specific reasons, and they're marked. And you either abolish it, but you better have a good reason for abolishing it, because you have taken, when they say you, audit and control means we politicians have taken taxpayers' money to prepare for something down the road. In that, but like buildings, like police, the landfill, they're all, that money is there for that purpose. So now if the town board feels that they're no longer needed, you better have a good reason why they're no longer needed, because you've taken taxpayers' money, which is what I'm trying to point out, that may not be here anymore. In other words, they should have gotten it back. So you better have a reason other than you got a catastrophe, because what they'll tell you is go borrow it, float a bond, do something. So it's not easy to do. Yes, Charlie.
Is there a storm damage reserve account?
A store damage?
Storm damage.
No, there isn't. And that is, I think, pretty hard to put together.
I'd like to pass out an email that I asked you to check with our lawyer from OSC. And then I'd like to read it. Last week, because I've been saying that I feel we could borrow from the reserve, so I went and called the comptroller's office, and I spoke to Teresa Myers. She's an associate examiner, and she went and checked into it, and she sent me this letter back. It says, Mr. Friedel, I've received the following answers from a professional standards unit, PSU. No, you're not allowed to borrow from the reserve. The reserves are set up to be used. The purpose of the reserve, and the board has the fiduciary responsibilities for those monies. However, they did suggest two alternatives. You can officially loan money under a real obligation and buy your own bond, but you should contact, I'm going to leave the guy's name out, from their legal department.
Mitch Morris, he's been there for 25 years.
Okay, Mitch Morris,
Talked to him
legal
many
department. If this is anything you wish to do, Mitch can be reached at his phone number. It is always best for your attorney to contact our attorney. That way you can talk, they can talk legal, so that he will not take a call from, not saying he won't take a call from a municipality official. The second alternative from our folks at PSU are just to contact your attorney to see if he knows of any way to borrow from the reserve, such as providing legal promissory note that needs to be approved by the board. Again, I'm sorry that it is not easy solution, but I must commend you for at least researching out and find out the correct way of doing this. Good luck. In further assistance, please do not hesitate to contact me. By what I'm reading here, they're saying that there is ways of borrowing from that fund. And maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know. To me, it sounds like the second sentence in parentheses, no, you're not allowed to borrow from the reserves.
Except.
Except for those reasons.
under those
It's not, what-
conditions.
it's what she's saying
It
is we're not
says
allowed to
reserves are
read.
set to be used for the purpose of the reserve, and the board has the fiduciary responsibility of those monies. Now, we know we can borrow and buy bonds and stuff, we already know that.
But what they're saying is that under certain conditions, you
They're saying
can,
possibly, they're not saying you can do this.
under certain conditions, you would be able to borrow, provided there was a promissory note in place to put the money back. So in our
That's what I've been
case,
saying.
where we're trying to pay and are waiting for 3 months to get money back from FEMA, this would allow us to not borrow money and pay our obligations and get the money back from FEMA and put it back in the capital
It's not like
reserves.
we're making huge money in reserved accounts.
My question is, when FEMA gives the money,
Has to go to general fund,
doesn't that have to go into the general fund?
yes.
And then the general fund will
We'll
give it
pay
to
the promissory notes.
pay the promissory note.
What happens if you don't get the money from FEMA, which is a very real possibility?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
We're on the hook.
So,
What
So
was
then you borrow the money. But if you don't have to, you don't borrow
But
it.
on the other hand, also, but if we borrow against those,
Reserves.
capital, those reserve accounts, and
They're-
something happens,
They're encumbered.
we're borrowing money again.
So if
So
anybody's,
I borrow
so
money
if
and borrow
anybody's been
money.
in the town office lately and seen the water coming through the ceiling, you might wanna realize that at some point you're gonna have to take some money out of the building's capital reserve account and do something about the leaks.
Thought we just
Been
had
done
a
years
new
ago.
roof put on.
That's neither here nor there, it has been.
But to borrow money, you have to pay some kind of interest. So either case,
It's less than 0.5%, Henry. You're not making that much. They're
I
not
think
making
I-
that much.
But I feel very uncomfortable about using accounts that are set up for
We're not-
specific purposes if
What disasters on those reserves are gonna
specific
happen?
purpose?
I don't see any problem in looking into this,
That's right.
seeing
That's all.
what it does and what it entails. But if it encumbers the account, I think you have to think very hard about
Yeah.
encumbering.
Could you read that first
Charlie, what do you
paragraph
got?
again?
Charlie,
Yeah, I'm asking Peter to read that first paragraph again. If he would, please.
Here, you wanna,
Oh, you
you
have
can
it?
read that, but please give it
well,
back to
there is
me.
no
That's my
second
own.
paragraph, but
First
No.
paragraph.
It's
it's all one.
If anybody wants copies, I have some
the
more.
reserves are set up to be used for purpose.
I know Mitch Morris says you can't. I know that.
No, it says here, 2 alternatives, you can officially loan monies under a real obligation. And so you gotta talk to the legal department. Sounds like they're willing to harmonize with us. That you could sit down and talk with them and make something happen if you want to. That's what this says.
Sounds like the lawyers.
It says you can officially loan monies. Please contact our legal department if this is anything you wish to do. That sounds like they just open a door to you know, if you want to do it. This is an offer to harmonize. The first paragraph, anyway. Can I have that?
But
Well, that's my, yeah, as long as I get another one for that minute.
Thank you.
it's funny, that's not what audit control talks
That's
about.
not what they say, I'm telling you.
I don't know, this is-
That's, well, Mitch
Audit
Morris has been there
control
for
said you
25
can
years.
abolish the account, put the money in the general fund.
Yes.
Scott, I'm a little confused. It seems to me that you all don't have any problems at all abolishing the account, but you've got a real issue against loaning money because if you have to borrow money, you're using those accounts as collateral or something. If you've abolished the account, you no longer have that account to borrow against.
Problem with abolishing it also.
Yeah, I think that's, I think maybe you misunderstood. The point is, we don't want to
I
abolish the
don't want
accounts.
to,
We don't feel we could. I mean, that it would be,
Right.
that would be in
Fiscally
the town's best
responsible.
interest.
Right, but that is another means of accessing that is by abolishing an account.
it doesn't hurt to look into it, I'm sure.
Well, is that what you said, Bert?
Yes.
So basically, that sounds like the easiest avenue, if you desire to access that money, would be to abolish the account. That's a normal procedure, kind of, in managing
You
your,
put it in your general fund and you use it for what
Right.
you want.
okay.
But audit and control does not